I've been doing YouTube a little bit over 4 years now, and I've been so blessed and so lucky enough to be able to talk about my hometown team, my favorite team, the Detroit Pistons, and receive so much love and support from you guys, even while they were struggling. And over these last few years, those videos that we made on the Detroit Pistons, most of those were off-season videos talking about all the moves that they were making to potentially turn the franchise around. I would make so many optimism-filled videos, and a lot of you guys were optimistic with me, and then we see the season start and things didn't go the way that we thought we were going to go, man. At the time, the Detroit Pistons, or I should say a lot of people in the city of Detroit, when their team is struggling, they like to put the team down. So when those seasons was beginning and the Pistons were struggling, man, so many people coming up under the comments saying what's going on with the Pistons, or this age well, sarcastically. And then over these last few years since Cade Cunningham has been drafted, I done heard so many disrespectful things about him. I've been in a barbershop a few times and people saying that I swear to you, somebody said that Cade Cunningham should be coming off the bench. Some of them said that he should be moved to the shooting guard position. So a bunch of crazy things over these last couple of years. So to see where the Detroit Pistons are right now in this season, the way that they're playing, the fashion that they're playing in, how entertaining they've been so far this season, I'm at a complete loss for words, because there's been so much positivity filled with this season. There's been so much growth in so many different areas that I don't even know where to start. But I think just like our last few videos, I want to look at the overall team success and the overall team growth of the Detroit Pistons this year, because I think it's just been so significant. And all season long with the Detroit Pistons, we talked about how these guys have been able to overcome adversity. Now, the adversity that we were talking about before was the Detroit Pistons, the in-game adversity, when things inside the game start not going your way. Like when we see the Detroit Pistons, when we see other teams start to come back on them and take the lead. Can the Detroit Pistons, can they survive that, reclaim the lead, and go win and get the victory? We've seen them win in that fashion this year. We've seen them blow teams out this year. We've seen them lose the lead, recapture it, and win in overtime. So we've seen them win a bunch of games so far this season where it seemed like the odds were stacked against them. And now recently the team they're dealing with a different type of adversity, and this adversity is the injury bug. And this is the bug that we've really seen kill the Detroit Pistons over these last few years. As bad as the Detroit Pistons have been, I would say, besides the last season was pretty crazy, but the few seasons before that, the Detroit Pistons, they were killed by the injury bug. Injuries to guys like Cade Cunningham, injuries to Jeremy Grant at the time when he was on the team, Bogdanovich when he was on the team, Jalen Duren. All of these guys have had some injury trouble, and here comes the injury bug once again, the 2024-2025 NBA season. And this one was very, very tough to see, very sad. We saw the team, we saw the Detroit Pistons, the players on the team, we saw their very emotional reactions to the injuries that happened to Jaden Ivey in the game against the Orlando Magic, a very unfortunate injury. Cole Anthony made a very terrible basketball play, diving towards Jaden Ivey's leg. Very, very hard thing to watch. But Jaden Ivey, he had a very good surgery. I heard it's possible that he might be able to return for the season, or I should say it hasn't been confirmed that he will be out for the rest of the season. So that is great news to hear. But it's just so terrible for Jaden Ivey, man. I feel so bad because of the year that he had last year, dealing with Monty Williams, playing somebody like Killian Hayes, who I literally haven't heard anything about Killian Hayes since he requested a trade from the Detroit Pistons. And to see where Jaden Ivey what he was trending towards this season, got off to a bit of a slow start this season, and then once he started to regain that confidence, consistent progress going in a positive direction. Career highs in a bunch of categories, career highs and field goal percentage, career highs and 3-point percentage, where right now Jaden Ivey shooting 40% from the 3-point line. He was also averaging a career high in points per game, averaging 17 points per game in that game against the Orlando Magic, the number 3 defense in the NBA. he was cooking them. So shout out to Jaden Ivey. He was having a terrific season, and like we already knew, Jaden Ivey is going to have a long, outstanding NBA career. But now the Detroit Pistons, they have this adversity where they're missing a player who obviously gives them a lot of production, and not just production, but he gives them a lot of impact and a lot of gravity off the way he plays the game of basketball. And so far, we've seen the Detroit Pistons, we've seen them play 2 games without Jaden Ivey. They're 2-0, 1 game against the Charlotte Hornets and 1 game against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And we look at this game against the Charlotte Hornets, and this is what I was talking about with the team growth and the progress of the Detroit Pistons. We look at that game against the Charlotte Hornets. Now, it's definitely a game that, even without Jaden Ivey, I thought the Detroit Pistons definitely should have won that game, because the Charlotte Hornets, they were missing LaMelo Ball, and they were also missing Brandon Miller. They're 2 best players on the team. And we look at that, we go back to that game, and it seems like the refs really wanted the Detroit Pistons to lose that game. If I'm not mistaken, listening to JB Bickerstaff at the press conference, he said the Detroit Pistons was called for 30 fouls, but the Charlotte Hornets were just called for 13 fouls. And we saw the Detroit Pistons, we saw them be able to get it done with key players being in foul trouble, including Cade Cunningham, who was dealing with foul trouble for most of that game, and he played nowhere near the amount of minutes that he usually plays. With the Detroit Pistons, they were able to get a grinded out win. I believe that score was like 98-94, but they had a huge game from Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris, he had 24 points, and I believe he had like 8 rebounds, but had a big time game for Tobias Harris. And I just thought that win was very impressive by the Detroit Pistons, because like I said, it seems like the refs really wanted them to lose that game. And then we go to the next game. Now, the next game was where I was really impressed. And watching this game last night against the Minnesota Timberwolves, this has made me feel really good about the Detroit Pistons going forward. And the first thing I want to say, I know the Timberwolves, they don't look like their record doesn't match the team that they are on paper, but for the Detroit Pistons on a back-to-back to host the Minnesota Timberwolves, when they have all of that talent over there, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they're one of the nastiest teams on paper. When we talk about guys like Rudy Gobert, a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, Julius Randle, a guy that's led a team to the playoffs, an all-star, Anthony Edwards, who dropped 53 points, and it still wasn't enough to beat the Detroit Pistons. And then they have lockdown defenders like Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They have a 6th Man of the Year and Naz Reid. And the Detroit Pistons was putting belt to the Minnesota Timberwolves the entire night. A big time game from Cade Cunningham. He dropped 40 points. Being able to match a superstar performance by Anthony Edwards, and I think that's also been one of the biggest differences this season. Cade Cunningham, with the new additions, with the growth of his teammates, he's now able to match the superstar-like performances he's now able to match those superstar performances like the other teams players come in and put up against the Detroit Pistons. So Cade Cunningham, he dropped 40 points on the Minnesota Timberwolves, and it was at the supporting cast with another outstanding performance with the Detroit Pistons. Tobias Harris pouring in 16 points. Asar Thompson scoring in double digits, playing terrific defense, getting highlight plays. Him and Cade Cunningham had that nice lob when Cade threw it off the glass, and he came in and threw it down with 2 hands. And I'm loving. I still haven't been to a Pistons game yet this season because, like I said, life has been a little bit crazy for me as of late. But as I'm watching these games, I'm hearing the crowd, and it sounds like the Detroit Pistons, it's starting like they're starting to get a real home court advantage, and I'm starting to love that because these guys definitely deserve it. But also Malik Beasley, another big time game off the bench, another 20-point game. He had 23, and I think this win right here, this win is so big time for the Detroit Pistons, and you can see with the way that these guys are playing, the confidence is definitely there. And more more importantly, the camaraderie is there as well. We see the Detroit Pistons every time they score a bucket, or every time they do something really nice. We see the whole bench stand up going crazy. The other night, I believe this was probably against the Charlotte Hornets. I forgot what the play was, but the bench was going so crazy that Jalen Duren, he picked up the refs threw him a tech for how hard he was celebrating on the bench. So, and then I also see Cade Cunningham when he gets in foul trouble and he has to get pulled, and his teammates are still out there doing great things on the basketball court. He's still standing up and clapping. He's still the first guy off the bench to come and greet those. So those are great to come and greet those guys. So those are great leadership qualities, and I'm just loving what I'm seeing for the Detroit Pistons. And like I said, once again, it's so sad to see that Jaden Ivey went down. He's going to be down for a long time, because there's no telling what type of trajectory he was about to go on, because like we said, we saw him just trending in a positive direction for a very extended amount of time. So but nonetheless, I'm loving what I'm seeing from the Detroit Pistons. It is very obvious that the sky is the limit for this core group of guys, and I think they're going to continue to grow their confidence and continuing to play great basketball. Like I said, that win against the Minnesota Timberwolves, Ant-Man getting his career high, all of the talent on that team, I can't be more proud of the Detroit Pistons for spanking them boys coming off a back-to-back. But that's what I want to talk about with you guys today. If you enjoyed, please leave a like. Comment down below if you agree or disagree, and then subscribe for more weekly content. We do this all the time, man, and that's curtains.